A couple of firsts when it comes to points last night for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but plenty to talk about ahead of their pre-Thanksgiving showdown against the Washington Capitals. We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Josh Sperber here, telling you that today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As we will get started talking a little bit more about Monday night's win. It was an 8-2 win over the Colorado Avalanche, and the Tampa Bay Lightning had a couple of players get some firsts. Mikey Eyssimont got his first goal of the season, second point. Zemgus Girgensons' 100th career assist was his first point as a Bolt. And Luke Glendening got his first goal of the season. Now, these guys have been players on the third and fourth lines for the Lightning so far this season. We're going to break down just how meaningful I think those first points in a way were. Mikey Eyssimont already had an assist. That came very early in the season for a guy who had the start of his season postponed due to injury. He got back pretty quickly, and Eyssimont became a pretty key figure in those third and fourth lines for the Tampa Bay Lightning, getting his third goal, actually the last goal of the game, on Zemgus Girgensons' assist. I think that's definitely big for him. I'd say when it comes to the three people, when it comes to these three, if you're ranking between the first goal of Glendening and Eyssimont being which one being more meaningful, that's kind of a tough one to call. You know, Glendening's a guy who doesn't score all that much, and his goal also happened a bit earlier in the game than Mikey Eyssimont. He had the last goal of the game, the second of two the Lightning scored in the third period, whereas Luke Glendening was part of Brandon Hagel's 4-assist first period. And he got a pretty key goal, the second in a row after the Avalanche got themselves on the board. And that one really put the game out of reach. I think in terms of the game itself, Glendening's goal might have been the most important when it comes to impacting the final score. But I think the Lightning know that Luke Glendening is definitely a role player, and his role does not come to scoring. He is certainly a guy who can put the puck in the net, but he is someone who has made his name in doing the little things, like making, some nice defensive plays, being a nice two-way guy, and being an absolute whiz in the face-off circle. And Glendening has played over 800 games in his NHL career, still 80 goals and 80 assists. Monday's tally was his 11th as a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he has not had more than 12 in a season. And that 12-goal year came back in 2014 and 15 when he was with the Detroit Red Wings. So I think Glendening getting on the score sheet, the main reason I think that is so big is because he's a guy that you can rally around. Those glue guys, those role players like Glendening can really hype up a team when they do something that they don't normally do. Like, obviously, when Glendening wins a big face-off late in the game, the team's not going to go hooting and hollering like it's some big thing. That is what they expect from Luke Glendening. When he makes a goal that is a first-period dagger, that is something that can really get the team hyped up. And the Lightning scored 4 more goals after that Glendening goal. And I think he was, he really helped keep the Lightning in the game and keep their foot on the gas pedal. Because if he's a guy who's getting in there, getting his hands dirty and getting himself a goal, then the rest of the team certainly can too. And it really spawned to it. And Zemgus Girgensons is someone who I've talked about quite a bit this year, for someone who really has not done all that much since joining the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's got a plus-minus now of -2 after being on the ice for the Eyssimont goal, providing his first assist as a member of the Lightning. And as I mentioned, he is He reached his 100th career assist in his 708th career game. He is still 11 goals away from the 100 goal mark in Gergenson's in his 11th year, his first since leaving the Buffalo Sabres in free agency. And honestly, I think of all of the firsts, Icyemont comes in a close second because I'm always a big believer in getting those younger guys, some momentum, getting them more chances and giving them chances to score can only help when it comes to their development. So I think it's, definitely big. I don't want it to be clear. The point of this segment is not to discount just how big these goals were and try and, distinguish any goal as being more important than the other. But I think that, a goal from Luke Glendening and a goal from Nikita Kucherov mean different things. One, the Kucherov's is one that you pretty much expect every single night. Glendening is one that, it just kind of looks good when it comes in. It's just not his regular role, but it's still, obviously a very meaningful goal from Gib Glendening and definitely helped cement that lead for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So when it came to which affected the flow of the game the most, I think Glendening of all those Lightning first had the most impactful goal. Icyemont, I'd say, is second in that of the three that I mentioned, just because he is that young player. But Zemgus Girgensons is someone that I think is needed to get involved for quite a bit. He was an assistant captain on the Buffalo, on Buffalo, on the Sabres. He's someone that has had a pretty respectable role on even a Sabres team that might not have been, the cream of the crop in the NHL. They might not have been a perennial contender with Girgensons there, but they still thought enough of him to distinguish him as a leader of that team. Now, no one had any questions about Girgensons getting on to, getting a captain role, getting an alternate captain role or something with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think that was ever in play. The Lightning typically pick their captains based on players who have had a long and productive history with the organization, and usually they're homegrown guys. McDonough, I think, being an exception because he was part of those Stanley Cup teams and a key part of those Stanley Cup teams. Girgensons was not in the running to become any captain or alternate captain or anything with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Just a rotational guy who could provide some help at the forward position. And, he's been solid, but he's just not a guy you've really noticed out on the ice all that much. And him getting that assist, no matter how late it was, no matter that it turned a 7-2 game into an 8-2 game and just put another nail in the coffin of the Colorado Avalanche. But I honestly think that of the firsts, that was the most impactful point. It was, first off, I think just because it gets the monkey off of your back. You look at Andrei Vasilevskiy, a couple games leading up to his 300th win. He was on a 4-game losing streak. Just didn't look as good as you'd expect Vasilevskiy to look. He got that 300 win in a fantastic performance. But honestly, to me, it was even more impressive that the performance after his 300th win was another one of his better games of the season. 4-1 win against the best team in the league to become the fastest player to 300 goals. It's pretty great. Following it up right after with a 4-0 win on the day the team celebrates you against the best team in your own conference is really impressive. And I think that kind of hangover, that kind of, just monkey on Girgensons' back of wanting to get that first point, wanting to put something in the score sheet in, with the Lightning. It had taken him 20 games to do it, but he did it. And I think that is something that could be big. And the fact that, the entire Lightning fourth line, when Lightning goes to 12-6, there have been multiple occasions where it has been Girgensons, Glendening, Icyemont on that fourth line. All of them got a point against the Colorado Avalanche. And that's a line that has not been as productive when it comes to putting points on the board. So I think Girgensons not only getting an assist, but getting an assist to one of the Lightning's younger players, one of their, almost their borderline prospects, essentially, guy that they're just still kind of developing at the pro level, I think was huge. And I certainly hope that Gergensons and Glendening, them getting themselves onto the score sheet, can be a sign of bigger things to come from that Lightning fourth line, because that is their most veteran-laden line typically. And getting a nice line like that with a lot of experienced players is something that can be good, helping fire up the team, but it also just helps maintain the balance and the depth, because if that fourth line is performing really well, then maybe in games that aren't as close, you can rest the first line a little bit more or the second line a little bit more. It just gives Cooper more options when you have all four lines firing on all cylinders. And the Lightning will be looking to do that against the Washington Capitals, but the Capitals will be without a key player in Alexander Ovechkin. The Lightning already have shut out the Caps once this season. How does Ovi's absence change the scope of this conference matchup? Get ready to tackle the NFL action or any other sports you want on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL or the NHL, all in one place. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is the #1 sportsbook in America, and it's because if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same plays where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And now we have a game preview. The Tampa Bay Lightning have already faced the Washington Capitals once. It was one of the two times that the teams will play at home. The other, of course, being tonight. The Lightning will be traveling to Washington in March for the final game between the two sides in the regular season. The Lightning shut down Alex Ovechkin in the last game between the two sides. Ovechkin played 22 shifts, the second most of any offensive player on the Capitals roster, and was held to just 2 shots, neither of which got on target. Had 3 hits as well. Ovechkin had, you could tell towards the end of that game that Alexander Ovechkin was feeling frustrated with just how well the Lightning were defending him. They played him really well, and it was a big reason that the Lightning won that game. Now, Ovechkin is going to be out for at least another 3 weeks, and it puts the Gretzky watch on hold, and it puts the Capitals at a bit of a disadvantage. They have dropped down a couple spots in the Metropolitan Division to third. They're 14-6-1. And they could be falling a bit more without their key player. And that is something that I think the Lightning need to address. Not in a way that, oh man, this Capitals team is going to be so easy without Ovechkin. I don't expect the Lightning to handle the Capitals like that. And I don't think that they would. I don't think that is a kind of way that they're looking at this game. They have to realize that the Cap star player is not in the game, so it just means they can do even more. The Lightning had their way with the Capitals when they came to Amalie Arena on October 26th. The Bolts got everything they wanted. Andrei Vasilevsky had one of his best games of the season with a shutout, and they held the Capitals captain in check. And it might be a little bit easier without Ovechkin there, not having that especially dangerous player that you have to worry about. But the Lightning need to realize that the Capitals still have some solid weapons that can hurt Tampa Bay. And the Lightning are expected to go with another 11-7 formation. Nick Paul unlikely to play, and no word on Cam Atkinson as well. So I'd expect the Lightning to do another 11-7 game, following up that 3-0 win at the end of October. So I think the Lightning really need to be more aggressive in this game. Their aggression, they had a whole lot of chances early on in that last game against the Capitals, and when they can get out to that hot start, when they can just put pucks on net within the first couple of minutes, it just ends up trickling down, and eventually the puck ends up trickling into the net. The Lightning are the kind of team that they have such talented shooters on their squad that if they just pepper shots on net, if the Lightning just can get shots on goal, they're going to end up falling. They've got a lot of smart offensive players with good shots on their team, and getting into shooting position, getting shots on net early and often is something that the Lightning really have to do to defeat any team. That is just the kind of thing you'd expect from a team with the kind of offensive identity that the Tampa Bay Lightning have. So I'd expect them to start off in a pretty similar way to the way they played against Washington last time out, because frankly, not much needed to change from that one. The first period was pretty even. Lightning were outshot. The next two periods, the Capitals outshot the Bolts, but the Lightning were able to capitalize on their chances, and they just got better as the game went on. A goal in the second and 2 goals in the third period. And honestly, I think a big source of the Lightning's momentum in that last game was the fact that they completely took Alexander Ovechkin out of the contest. There were times where I forgot that he was still playing. Like I thought he had left the game with an injury or something like that, because that is how effectively the Lightning took him out of the game. And obviously, the Caps don't have a target that is as effective as Ovechkin. They don't have someone else that can just single-handedly take over a game like that, but they still have players to worry about. I don't think the Lightning are going to look at this Capitals team any differently with and without Alex Ovechkin, but they can't just lean on the stopping the star kind of tactic. They still have to play a complete game like they did the last time these two teams played each other. But, you've got to know going in that there's not, oh, if we neutralize this guy, it's over. There's not a guy like that on the Caps anymore. The Capitals might employ that strategy with Nikita Kucherov, or try to, but the Lightning need to just find other ways to get momentum, whether that's getting out to a hot start, improving on faceoffs or power plays, both of which, well, they were 0 for in power plays. They won 41% of the faceoffs against Washington. And really, Washington led in most categories, with the one exception being blocked shots in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Caps outshot the Bolts. The Caps won more faceoffs. Neither of them scored on the power play. The Capitals had fewer takeaways, just one more giveaway, but more than double the amount of hits that the Lightning had. And that is something else that I've seen a lot better from the Lightning lately. I've seen a lot more physicality from them. Guys aren't as afraid to, get hits and mix it up with guys who were being aggressive and lowering their shoulder a bit early on in the game. So the Capitals are one of the more physical teams in the NHL. That was also the case with the New Jersey Devils, who entered their last game against the Lightning in the top 5 in hits, also in the top 5 in both power play and penalty kill percentage. The Lightning were able to neutralize the Devils completely in that, and I think a big reason that they did that is because they outplayed the Devils at their game. They went hit for hit with New Jersey and ended up winning the battle. And it might be difficult to go hit for hit with a team like the Capitals, especially with the Lightning being a less physical team than most. But I think that increased physicality, especially in this situation, can certainly help. You know that Washington's players are going to be a little more aggressive. They're going to be guys that have to try and make those hero plays, because the guy who usually does might not even probably isn't even making the trip with the Capitals coming down to Amalie Arena as Ovechkin is injured. So I think the Lightning increasing their physicality just will throw Washington off their game a little bit. Washington dominated the physical play. 30 hits to the Lightning's 12 in that last game. And if the Lightning can step up their physicality and maintain that level of offensive production, the same level that they had the last time the Caps came to Amalie Arena, Washington's going to be in for another long game. I don't know if it's going to be another shutout, but this is a game that I'd expect the Lightning to win. It's also a game that you might see Jonas Johansson in net, just with a couple back-to-back games. I'd expect Johansson to be in the net either tonight's game against Washington or when the Lightning visit Steven Stamkos and the Nashville Predators the day after Thanksgiving, only because that game is before Saturday game where the Lightning are back home against Toronto. And I think that Johansson is likely to be in that road game against Nashville, but he's someone that I'd look out for if you're a Lightning fan. There is a chance that he plays in the game against the Washington Capitals. And honestly, the Capitals are without their best goal scoring threat. And even he didn't do anything against Andrei Vasilevsky. Might not be a bad move for John Cooper to start Jonas Johansson and give Andrei Vasilevsky an early Thanksgiving. Now, the Thanksgiving came pretty early for the Lightning. Brandon Hagel was eating against the Colorado Avalanche with a NHL record tying 5 assists and 4 coming in the first period. It's going to be hard to repeat or emulate a performance like that really in any way, but can it be done by another Lightning player? Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks, and you can get sports action in over 30 different states, including the great state of Florida. That's where Prize Picks is the best way to get your sports action. Just join over 10 million users and sign up today. If you sign up for Prize Picks right now, you get $50 instantly when you play your first $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. $50 bonus is guaranteed on your first $5 play. Prize Picks also offers weekly projections that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So make sure to download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today and put in the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And Brandon Hagel was certainly running his game against the Colorado Avalanche. And to be clear, I don't want anyone to think that I am, full gung-ho about someone on the Lightning getting exactly 5 assists. I really just mean a big performance like that. It just had me thinking over the last couple nights. I mean, wow, that was incredible. And it didn't completely come out of nowhere. Hagel's already had a natural hat trick and a 4-point game at one point in separate occasions this year. But there are still a lot of talented offensive players. And if you had told me that Brandon Hagel would be the first Lightning player on this roster to get to 5 assists in a game, I thought you were wrong. This doesn't have anything to do with Hagel. He's a fantastic player and a good man. But, if I had to guess one Lightning player getting 5 assists in a game, the first name out of my mouth would be Nikita Kucherov. And he is a guy that, we can talk about here, because if you're looking for another Lightning player to have a big game like that, Kucherov, I think, would be the first name on your list. And, it makes sense. He won the Art Ross Trophy last year, Hart Trophy finalist, and most of the past decade. I mean, he has been one of the best offensive players in the league, one of the fastest players to reach 900 points in his NHL career. He's just been incredible. And honestly, those 5-goal lines, it's the kind of lines that I get with Kucherov when I'm playing with my Lightning dynasty on NHL. He just is a magnet for points. And there are a few players in the league that can put pucks in net and can set up shots on goal as well as Nikita Kucherov. I don't know if, I think 5 assists in a game are well within his wheelhouse, maybe even 6 if the Lightning can really go off. And it's certainly a possibility. A couple other intriguing names that might be possibilities for that. One is Anthony Cirelli. And that's not just because he's on the longest goal scoring streak of the NHL season so far, with a goal in each of the past 6 games. Cirelli's already had a 4-assist performance. That game where Brandon Hagel had that natural hat trick against New Jersey, Cirelli was quietly sitting there with his 4 assists, assisted on some of Hagel's goals as well. But he's already come close to that this season. And Cirelli, we've talked a lot about Brandon Hagel's breakout season, and Anthony Cirelli's success so far this year, I don't think gets talked about enough. Cirelli's third on the Lightning in points right now. He has as many goals as Brandon Hagel and Jake Gensel, and only one fewer assists than Victor Hedman. Fourth on the team in assists is Cirelli, and his 22 points are good for third on the Lightning, also with a plus minus of 11, which is the best among forwards for the Lightning and tied with Ryan McDonough for the team lead. Cirelli is he's having the kind of season where, he's going to stay consistent. That has definitely, I think, been the key factor for Cirelli. He's just been so consistent. You get what you get from him every night, and it's exceptional. It's great team play. It's great hustle on the penalty kill. It's just a solid two-way forward, and a guy who can win faceoffs as well. So I think Cirelli is certainly a guy who might not be on the watch list for one of those kind of games coming up, like I'd say Kucherov is, because frankly, he's got the kind of skill where if he put up 7 points in tonight's game, I really wouldn't be surprised. He just has that kind of talent. And Cirelli is certainly talented, but he just doesn't have that game-breaking ability that Nikita Kucherov has. Though I do think he's got the ability to put up a 5-point game or something wild like that. I'm going to say Darren Radish too, mostly just because he was the last Lightning player with 5 assists in a game. Did it in March against Philadelphia. Maybe he could do it again, getting more opportunities in a more offensive role as that 7th defender, like he's been for the Bolts. Most times they've gone in the 11 and 7. It's been pretty significant, pretty consistently Lilleberg and Perbix on that third defensive line, and Radish has just kind of been in there filling in when Perbix has needed a day off, or since the Lightning have had an unfortunate brush with the injury bug for the better part of the first month or two of the season, Radish has had to step up and kind of play that 4th ringer, 7th defender role type deal. So I think, you never know. I think if the Lightning have a really effective game moving the puck up the wings and, playing through the defenders, Radish can pop off for another 5-point game like he did against Philadelphia last year. Another game might not be for assists, but Braden Point. I really think if there's any Lightning player who is going to go over a hat trick this year, it's going to be Point. He just has an insane ability to score from close. He might not be able to get a 5-assist game because that's really not his game. If Braden Point has the puck on his stick, more likely than not, it's going towards the net. And, around 20, 30% of the time, it's going to go in the net too. He's that effective when it comes to shooting. So I certainly don't expect a 5-assist game from Braden Point, but I think he could have a big game in terms of goals scored really at any point this season. He's just a guy that, he's going to score on you. It's just a matter of how often. And that is really what Braden Point brings to the table. So if he pops off for a 5-goal game, that certainly won't surprise me. And last but not least, Jake Gensel. Only player with more multi-point efforts for the Tampa Bay Lightning so far this season than Gensel, Nikita Kucherov. Couple multi-goal games, couple multi-assist game. He does it all on offense. And he is, other than maybe Nikita Kucherov, Gensel is probably the most diversely offensively talented on this Lightning team. He's a guy who's got a really quick shooting release, a smart passer. You don't see him committing a lot of turnovers. He's just a guy who knows how to play offense, whether that's in passing or scoring. I think his passing might be a little bit better, but Gensel is just offensively a gifted player. And that's why I think that he's one of those guys that the 5 points might come easiest to. I think the easiest answer, if we're going to pick one player, the next Lightning, to get a 5-point game, it's going to be Nikita Kucherov. My answer is still going to be the wild card for Anthony Cirelli. I think he's just putting together that kind of specialist season. And it might not be the kind of special that's going to be remembered in history books, but it's going to be the kind of special for a player like Cirelli, who I don't know if he'll be remembered as like a legend or an all-time great or anything like that, but he'll always be known as a hard worker and just a really solid hockey player. So I think the next Lightning player to 5 points is going to be Anthony Cirelli, whether it's 5 assists in the game or some kind of combination. I think Cirelli could do it. I really think that he is having that kind of special season where big games like that can happen. It's certainly been the case for Brandon Hagel, and no better way to pass on the magic than give it to your trusty line mate. One of the just a Lightning pair that is so rare to be broken up, even with the amount of times Cooper has had to switch the Lightning lines around. Hagel and Cirelli have stayed together, so they might kind of share that magic, not just between their chemistry on the ice, but it could be in terms of big games as well. We're hoping for a big game for the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. That game will tip off at about 7 o'clock at Amalie Arena. And that is going to do it for tonight's show. Josh Sperber again thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure to find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steele and Flynn. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And wherever you found this podcast, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please give us a like, a follow, a subscription. We really appreciate your guys' support because, after all, this show is for you guys, the Lightning fans. So, Lightning fans, thank you so much again for tuning in. Go Bolts, and we'll see you on Thanksgiving.